Hello and welcome to Spectrum TV News at 12. I am Francis Oyima Edet, coming to you live from Iyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. Let's take a look at the headlines. Federal government probes 1.8 billion naira contract awards in NSITF. APC reacts to Tinubu's certificate saga, says Atiku suffers from multiple losses. Plus, UK man Jaswad, who tried to kill Queen Elizabeth, in jail for 9 years. We will bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. First in the news this afternoon is a report that the federal government has inaugurated a special investigative committee to probe alleged irregularities in different contract awards to the tune of 1.8 billion naira in the Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund, NSITF. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Simon Lalong, inaugurated the five-man committee tagged Fact-Finding Committee, chaired by the Director, Finance and Account of the Ministry, Isaac Okeche. Lalong, while reading out terms of reference to the committee, directed that their investigations must cover self-payment of gratuities to the Managing Director of the agency, Maureen Alago, while still in office, non-release of promotions, as well as irregular employments. In another development, the All Progressive Congress APC has criticized the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party PDP, Atiku Abubakar, saying his ill-timed press conference was a gross contempt of the Supreme Court. This was disclosed in a reaction issued by the National Publicity Secretary of the APC, Felix Moka. Moka stated that the ruling APC was unfazed by the media briefing by the former vice president, stressing that it lacked purpose. They expressed belief that Atiku should have known better than to demonstrate gross contempt of the highest court by making public comments on a matter that he has submitted to the court for adjudication. In a related development, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has turned down the request by his counterpart in the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, to join him in the ongoing battle against President Bola Tinubu. Reports say that the former vice president had, during an international press conference in Abuja, urged Obi and Rabiu Kwankwaso of the New Nigerian People's Party, NNPP, to join his fight for justice. This is coming on the heels of the controversy surrounding President Tinubu's certificate, which Atiku obtained from the Chicago State University, CSU. Atiku, who alleged that Tinubu forged the certificate he submitted to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, made it clear that he intended to employ the academic records provided by the CSU as part of his litigation against the president in the Supreme Court. Responding to the call, Obi, in a statement issued by the National Publicity Secretary of the Labour Party, Obiora, said he is currently busy seeking to reclaim his stolen mandate at the Supreme Court. We move to the Red Chambers, where the Senate has summoned the Inspector General of Police, Kaide Gbetokun, and the Ministers of Health and FCT, Ali Pate and Nyesam Wike, respectively, over the death of Greatness Olurufemi at the Maitama General Hospital last Tuesday. According to reports, Greatness Olurufemi was a victim of a one-chance criminals. They stabbed and threw her out of the vehicle she boarded along the Maitama Kubwa Highway. She was immediately rushed to Maitama General Hospital by Good Samaritans, but the facility did not attend to her for not providing a police report. Disturbed by the sad development, the Senate, through a motion sponsored by Senators Sukwai Peyong, instructed its Committee on Health and Police to carry out a thorough investigation on Olurufemi's death and report back in 2 weeks' time. In a related development, the Senate has urged the federal government to resettle the over 1.5 million Benue residents who were displaced by bandits. The legislature also asked the federal government to redeem the 10 billion naira promise made to the people of Benue to rebuild the destroyed communities. The Senate's resolution was a sequel to the adoption of a motion at plenary on the need to resettle displaced people of Gwe East, Makodi, and Guma local government areas to their ancestral homes and avert imminent humanitarian crisis in the state. The motion was sponsored by Senator Zam Tatenga, APC Benue. The Senate, in its resolution, urged the Chief of Defense Staff to immediately facilitate and supervise the quick return of all displaced persons to their ancestral homes and provide a sustainable security corridor in all flashpoints within the affected communities. To the Green Chambers now, where the House of Representatives has decided to look into claims that oil firms have harmed the environment in areas that produce oil and have defied the law governing the oil industry. The House charged its Downstream Petroleum Resources Committee to look into any environmental harm brought on by oil firms, disregard for the law, following a proposal made at the plenary session by Amadou Jaha of the APC in Borno. The resolution was passed, and Jaha, who presented the motion, claimed that many oil wells in oil-producing areas have been drained and are no longer economically viable, leading local and multinational oil and gas firms to sell up their previous upstream holdings. According to Jaha, citing Section 232 of the Petroleum Industry Act, the legislation mandates that oil corporations must guarantee that the environment returns to its natural state after the conclusion of their exploratory activities by dismantling and removing non-viable sites. Deputy Speaker Ben Kalu, who presided over the meeting, called for an oral vote on the resolution, which was adopted without debate. In a related development, the House of Representatives has resolved to oversee the issuance of promissory notes for the judgment debt totaling about $556 million, £398 million, and 226 billion naira incurred by the federal government. The lawmakers at a plenary session highlighted the need for the payment of critical judgment debt owed by the federal government's ministries, departments and agencies with promissory notes. The resolution was a sequel to the adoption of a motion by the lawmaker representing Surulere Federal Constituency, Lagos State, Lanre Ogunlola. Justifying his call, Ogunlola urged his colleagues not to lose sight of the judgment debt profile incurred by the MDAs, adding that addressing the debts would go a long way in ensuring the financial stability of the federal government. In a separate development, the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies in Kuru, Jos, have warned that the death penalty for corrupt public officers, as suggested in some quarters, would not curb corruption in Nigeria. The institution said that instead, Nigeria should embrace behavior change approaches to reduce graft. The Director General of NIPSS, Professor Ayo Omotayo, stated this in an interview with journalists during the validation of the curriculum on institutionalizing behavior change approaches to reducing corruption in the public and private sectors in Nigeria, held in Abuja. According to him, there were strong anti-corruption regulations and campaigns to reduce corruption in Nigeria, adding that the measures had worked to some extent. In another development, the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC) has said the number of active mobile subscriptions in the country has reached about 220.716 million as at August 2023. Reports say teledensity stood at 115.63% at the same period. Also, the number of active internet subscribers was 159.035 million, with broadband penetration at 45.57% as at August 2023. Executive Vice Chairman, Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC), Umar Danbata, disclosed these at the NCC Day during the 18th Abuja International Trade Fair, organized by the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, at the NCC Day during the 18th Abuja International Trade Fair, organized by the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry at the Trade Fair Complex along Airport Road, Abuja. He said following such development in the industry, it had become imperative for the Commission to ensure that telecommunication companies are not overburdened with taxes and levies. Danbata was represented by the Director of Consumer Affairs, Umar Al-Qasim. On electoral matters, coalition of pro-democracy groups have vehemently rejected the proposal by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to abandon electronic transmission of results in the forthcoming governorship election in Bayelsa State. Rising from a meeting in Abuja, the group said the planned manual transmission of results being proposed was an attempt at allowing desperate politicians to manipulate the will of the Bayelsan electorate during the election. Recall that INEC had stated its plans to transmit the result of the November 11 Bayelsa governorship election manually. This was made known through the state's resident electoral commissioner, Rec. Oboe Fanga. But the civil society organizations, which are an amalgamation of groups committed to ensuring transparency, fairness, and accountability in the electoral order, in the communique signed by Comrade Olufemi, National Secretary, Campaign for Democracy (CD), and Comrade Atani John, Niger Delta Democratic Vanguard, said they believe that the integrity and credibility of any election depend on the transparency of the electoral process, including the accurate and timely transmission of results. The security matters now, where operatives of the Department of State Services (DSS) have arrested and detained the erstwhile Dean of the Faculty of Law at the University of Calabar, Professor Cyril Edifan, over alleged sexual harassment of female law students. Reports say that there were a series of protests in the institution against the university Don, who was later suspended by the management of the university, while an investigation into the allegations commenced immediately. Edifan had defended himself, claiming that the protests against him by the law students were masterminded by some persons in the faculty who had sworn to pull him down. He described the allegations as barefaced lies aimed at tarnishing his image. Giving an update on the development in Abuja, a DSS spokesman, Peter Funaya, confirmed that operatives of the service arrested the Don and took him into custody after he refused to honor several invitations extended to him. We move now to Africa, where the peace and security bodies of the United Nations (UN) and the African Union (AU) have been discussing the financing of peacekeeping operations carried out under the urges of the Pan-African Organization on the continent in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Reports say the member countries of the UN Security Council (UNSC) and the AU Peace and Security Council (PSC) are holding their annual meeting in the Ethiopian capital headquarters of the AU. Opening the proceedings, AU Peace and Security Commissioner Bankole Adeoye called on participants to specifically address the central issue of predictable, adequate, flexible, and sustainable funding for the Continental Organization's peacekeeping operations in Africa. Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, representative to the EU, Bafet Onaga Anyanga, expressed the hope that the discussions in Addis Ababa would lead to a framework resolution enabling U.S. to dispense with the current ad hoc agreement on the financing of essential peace operations on the continent. Still in Africa, family members of jailed lawyers and politicians in Tunisia want the International Criminal Court to investigate claims of political persecution and human rights violations. Reports say an increasing number of Tunisia's President Kais Saied's opponents are arrested and several in prison stage hunger strikes. Meanwhile, the daughter of jailed opposition leader Rashid Ghannouchi, Yasra Ghannouchi, joined other jail dissident sons and daughters in The Hague to announce plans to pursue action at the court. Yasra also said persons have been detained unlawfully, arbitrarily, mistreated, in some cases tortured, and they don't know what the charges are against them. On a foreign scene, a man who admitted trying to kill the late Queen Elizabeth II after being found on the grounds of Windsor Castle with a loaded crossbow has been handed a 9-year sentence. Reports say the 21-year-old Jaswant Chal will serve the first part of his term in the high-security Broadmoor Psychiatric Hospital, moving to prison when his mental health permits. The sentencing judge at the London Old Bailey Court, Nicholas Billiard, said Chell had lost touch with reality so that he had become psychotic. Meanwhile, trying to kill the Queen is a treasonable offense, and Chell will serve the 9-year jail term.
In 2021, he was arrested in a private part of the grounds of Windsor Castle in possession of a loaded crossbow. This part of the castle and grounds is never open to the general public. Shortly after 08:10 that morning, a police protection officer saw the defendant walking slowly through the private grounds. The officer began to approach him. The defendant was wearing a metal mask which he had had made at a forge. The officer asked if he could help. The defendant said that he was there to kill the Queen. The officer realized that the defendant was holding a crossbow. He drew his taser and shouted for the defendant to drop the crossbow and get to his knees. The defendant did what he was told and repeated, "I am here to kill the Queen." Mr. Chale, on count 1, the sentence is one of 44 months imprisonment. On count 2, the sentence is one of 16 months imprisonment. On count 3, the sentence is one of 48 months imprisonment with an extended licence period of 5 years. The total sentences amount to 9 years custody with a further licence period of 5 years.
Still on the foreign scene, US President Joe Biden has defended plans to extend the border wall with Mexico, saying he didn't think such barriers worked out, but he was bound by laws. Introduced under Donald Trump, recall that Biden pledged during his White House race with Trump in 2020 that he would abandon the hard-right Republican signature policy and would not build any more of the world. However, the Department of Homeland Security yesterday announced the building of a new section in southern Texas to tackle an acute and immediate need as numbers of migrant crossings surge. In a further development, the White House announced that it would restart deportation flights to Venezuela, one of the main countries of origin for the migrants.
For the border wall. I tried to get them to redirect that money. They didn't, they wouldn't. And in the meantime, There's nothing under the law other than they have to use the money for what was appropriated. I can't stop that.
Do you believe the border wall works?
No.
And still to come in the news, D-Tigers drawn against USA, Senegal, Belgium in 2024 Olympic qualifiers. To stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us, and now to the rest of the news stories. On a business news, Nigeria's Minister of Finance, Oluwale Dunwa, said solution is in sight for the economic challenges as the Tinubu-led administration will tackle foreign exchange forex problem with the cheapest available funds. According to the minister, the president met with World Bank officials on how to address tight forex liquidity. Meanwhile, Edun unveiled plans to address the nation's economic problems at a business lunch in his honor, and 3 other ministers by the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN, in Abuja. Those also honored are Minister of Information and National Orientation Mohammed Idris, the Minister of Solid Minerals Development Del Alake, and the Minister of Art, Culture and Creative Economy Hannatu Musawa. All the ministers who have been active members of NPAN were celebrated for being appointed into the cabinet of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. In health, the National Agency for the Control of AIDS, NACA, is partnering with the Global Fund to launch a comprehensive 3-month sensitization program with a dedicated focus on tackling the prevailing gender and human rights challenges that significantly affect individuals living or affected by HIV. The agency disclosed these in a press statement signed by its head of the Public Relations and Protocol, Toyin Aderegibie. The statement read that the innovative program, slated for October to December 2023, underscores the unwavering commitment to champion and safeguard the rights and well-being of people living with HIV, while striving to create a more inclusive and equitable society. According to the Director General of NECA, Gambo Aliyu, people living with vulnerable to or affected by HIV are entitled to the enjoyment of all human rights and exercising equal participation in civil, political, social, economic, and cultural life without prejudice, stigma, or discrimination of any kind. In sports, Nigeria's D-Tigers have been drawn with the United States, Senegal, and hosts Belgium for the Paris 2024 FIFA basketball qualifying tournament in Antwerp. Reports say the draw was held yesterday, and the qualifiers will run from 8 to 11 February 2024 in 4 different cities: Antwerp in Belgium, China, Sopron in Hungary, and Belém in Brazil. According to reports, Tournament 1 will involve China, France, New Zealand, and a team from America. The Tigers, USA, Senegal, and Belgium will battle in Tournament 2 in Antwerp. Tournament 3 will hold in Belém, and the teams are Brazil, Serbia, Australia, and Germany, while Tournament 4 will hold in Sopron with Hungary, Spain, Japan, and a team from America. Meanwhile, the 2024 FIBA Women's Olympic qualifying tournaments will be contested by 16 national teams, where the top teams earn a place in the 2024 Summer Olympics basketball tournament. The Tigers are the reigning African champions after securing their 6th continental title at the 2023 edition in Kigali, Rwanda. On our entertainment news, Canadian singer Taylor Swift's Eras Tour concert film has become a box office blockbuster a week before hitting the cinemas. The distributor AMC said that global advance ticket sales have toppled $100 million, about 82 million euros, adding demand has been incredible from the moment it was first announced. The firm further said it took less than 24 hours for the movie to beat its record for the highest one-day sales, which makes it the most profitable concert film in history, overtaking Justin Bieber's Never Say Never. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. You've been watching Spectrum TV News at 12. I am Francis Oyima Adet. Many thanks for being there, and do enjoy the rest of your day.